this is the main topic, the main of chapter 3, being Christ. Let's look at what, and as it says, verse 28 to verse 30.
Then Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this world. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
See the result? They did the very thing they refused to do, that is, worship this image, and we were promoted. I don't know where this in the Philippines, but in Indonesia, the biggest struggle of Adventists is to find work when God is not on Sabbath. It's very difficult. Many of the Adventists struggle. And some, I decided to say, they have proceeded if they go work on Sabbath. Which is sad, I understand. But the thing is, by them doing that, God cannot bless them. They could have possibly, I don't know, moved up, by their faithfulness. I have heard Adventists who stood by to keep the Sabbath, and guess what happened to them? God brings them up to positions they don't like. Matthew's aunt was his name is Irene. I'm not sure you've seen her. She wasn't what we call a very faithful Adventist. This is her testimony to me. But there was one thing she always remembered, that not to desecrate the Sabbath day. So as a university student, she was the university that she was in, they permitted her to work as well as go to school. So as she was about to finish her school, and there were some classes that she failed because we were on Sabbath. And so as she was about to finish school, it was her third year, she was offered a job in finance, the finance department, but they asked her to come in on Sabbath. She thought, I'm sorry, I cannot. I do not work on Saturday. And they asked her why. She said, oh, not being, like I said, grounded in the Lord, her only excuse was, my church activities last the whole day. But they said no. And then later she got an offer from the administration position, in which they also told her you have to work on Sabbath. She said, I cannot work on Sabbath. And so they decided, you know what? And she said, however, I will work on Sunday. I will be the hardest worker that you'll ever see. And she said it without hoping that she'll get the job, without hoping, but she knows it's going to be the same thing again. And so they said, why don't we give 3 months trial? That if anyone in the department complains, how can we have off and all that, then I'm sorry, you cannot continue this job. Within 3 months, all the co-workers saw she worked much harder than they did, and so there was no complaint. And guess what happened after she got the position? She became in charge of scheduling of all the classes. So that means she did not have to have classes on Sabbath. Lord promoted her. Then later on, the person in charge had to step down, so she took the position of basically in terms of scheduling. And because she was department head at a young age, in her early 20s, she was now in charge of planning the graduation ceremony, which was always done on Sabbath. And because she was the head of scheduling, she had to be the head of committee of the graduation committee. Now she's what? How do I say I cannot go? Because she has to go. It's part of the job description. So she went to her boss and says, we've always had problems on Sabbath. Like the parents cannot come, the parents work. Why don't we do it on Sunday? And her boss goes, her direct boss was the dean. So the dean was the top of everything now. She's in shut down the schedule already. So David says, let's try it one time. And you know what? It was a successful graduation ceremony. And as time passes by, she became the head of marketing, so she was a director. The point I'm sharing the story is this: when we are faithful to God, He will be with us. He will bring us up to places that we don't know. So don't be afraid if you have to lose that job. Don't be afraid. And if you're in a secular university, I don't know where you are. How many of you are still in university? Working? Universities. AUP? So you're fine now. But for those of you, or any one of you in secular work, don't be afraid to put this out. Be faithful. That's why sin proof is basically happens when we are obedient to all His commands. I like in verse 15, when Shadrach and Meshach 16, 17, and 18, they say this: even if God does not deliver me, He still will not deliver me. This is another lesson on faith, which I want to do. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 11. This is called the faith chapter. Hebrews 11. Now, look at verse 4. By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. This is Abel. Look at the second one, at verse 5. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death. Look at the contrast. Abel, he had faith, but he died. Enoch had faith, he lived. He didn't even see death. Look at the result. So let's look. Now let's look at Noah. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things, that's verse 7, not seen as yet, clothed with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house. Look at verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called out to God into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. And he went out. Another contrast. Noah, faithful, stayed, built an ark. Abraham, faithful, left, and he did not know where he went. One stayed, one left. Another contrast. I call them heroes of the faith here. Let's look at another contrast. Let's look at verse 23, 24. Sorry, 27. This is about Moses. By faith, he, which is Moses, forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. And in verse 24, by faith Moses, when he was come 2 years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. This is Moses. Let's look at Joseph, which is in verse 22. Yeah, verse 22. By faith Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandment concerning his books. Why am I showing Joseph and Moses here? Joseph, he was taken captive, became a slave, and then later became prime minister of Egypt, second in command. From poverty of a slave to second in command, rich, powerful. Moses was already adopted by the daughter of Pharaoh, so he was considered a prince of Egypt. But yet he left Egypt and became poor. Now there is this gospel called prosperity gospel. If you're faithful to God, you will prosper materially. This is not true. Look at this. One became poor, one became rich. So why am I showing this contrast? Faith is not dependent upon the results of what you do. Your faith must be based upon solely because God fight, bad things happen. Because we all think when we're real and God doesn't heal us, that means something's wrong with our faith. No. It takes more faith to say, God, I believe that you permitted me to go through this illness and you're not allowing healing. I trust that you see something permitting me to go through this. When hardships come, it's not because of lack of faith. It's God refining us. So I like the Hebrew, the 3 words. They said whether God delivers us or not, we'll still not worship. So whether you get the job or not, we will still keep the Sabbath. Whether you get the grade or not, I will keep the Sabbath. Whether I pass or fail, I will keep the Sabbath. This is what it means to be also sinful. To stick to what we believe, despite the consequences. We are in the last area engaged. There will be more attack religion, as well as for me. Don't think that I'm not attacked. I'm attacked. Everyone, all the speakers you see, there's more pressure than you think we go through. We do. So be encouraged that when trials come, it's God's place, and I believe you. I believe you will survive this. Any questions? We have questions and then I'll try to do. I like to keep my workshops short because after lunch, drink at work. Any questions so far? It's 2:15 actually, this is the time. Any questions? I'm open to questions. Okay, now let's close. Alright. Father in heaven, we have sinned in the lives of the sweet people. And as long as we are with Jesus, we are sinful. And that's our greatest struggle, what to do with Jesus. I pray this day that you will help us admit to you, Lord, there's some things in our lives where you can surrender. So help us, Lord, be willing to surrender these things. And help us, Lord, make a decision in our minds that no matter what the result may be, even if it's bad, in our eyes it's bad, and we will continue to be committed to you. Thank you, Lord, for loving us so much, for still being faithful to us. As well as in Jesus' precious name. Thank you for coming and spending time with me. God bless you.